So good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Mm.
Welcome to the holiday period.
That's right.
Good morning.
Good
Yeah.
morning, Monte.
Good morning,
Yep.
Char. How are you?
Are you in the snow, Monte? Is there snow still there in Montana? Or no, Montana, Oregon. Oregon.
Actually, we're really close to Montana. We're in the northeast corner of Washington near Newport, and we're at the bottom of the Canadian snow belt. So yeah, there's snow from now pretty much through March.
Really? It never melts, huh?
No, it just kind of stays down. Like we're down to about an inch right now, and there's supposed to be 6 to 12 inches in the next 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
We have a good plow truck.
Yeah, in Colorado we have that, and we were at we get snows, but then it melts, and then we get snow again, and then it melts. So except for the
Yeah,
high
you guys
point.
get the big temperature variance too, right? 28
Yeah.
degrees in the morning and 70 in the afternoon.
That's right.
I could use some of that.
Right. Well, I have a massive temperature variance. So we went from 89 degrees, and then I left Mexico, came back up here, and then but it was actually in the 60s, which I heard it was previously in the 38. And
You brought the
then,
good weather with you?
yeah, and then Bruce at home is now dealing with the rain for some reason. He's like, as soon as you left, the clouds came in, now it's raining.
So Shar, you're the sunshine, right?
I am the sunshine. Everybody knows that.
For sure.
So, but then yesterday, my girlfriends and I went out to dinner, and we got to sit in one of those igloos. And
Okay.
Igloo outside of the restaurant situation.
In Denver for the cold weather, yeah.
Yeah, and that was really hilarious. They apparently have igloos, and you can only sit in them for like 90 minutes. And we were laughing because we were like, this is so weird.
Hopefully you were drinking wine.
In that case, it was a margarita, and I was like, why is it that I'm drinking margaritas at home, and now I have to drink margaritas here? Yeah. That's okay. Well, we had a nice time. But it's just weirdly when you're going around to the different restaurants, how they're trying to deal with, wrapping their patios with plastic, or they have igloos outside of their places, or they have screens. Because here in Denver, everything's on restaurant lockdown, so nothing's inside, everything's outdoors.
Yeah,
so
well, it's good they're being creative.
Yeah, I'm getting a taste of that.
So yeah,
but down there, everything's outdoors, so
great. So so you're looking great, Shar. You're back from, so you're in Puerto Vallarta last week, and now you're back up here to spending a little bit of time.
I'm here. We come back every month, and we do our in-person staff meetings. Mm-hmm. And because we are service industry, we're not all remote. So, it's important to show that if our employees have to face the public with their personal protective equipment and be in the public, I need to demonstrate that I can be visible. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we met at one of our locations at Flatirons, and we're all wearing our masks, and we had an in-person meeting. So, so that's what we're doing. Just showing that we're there, and we shared our holiday bonus and gave everyone recognition for a great year, because we've just had such a, as you guys know, just quite a year starting this business. It's been over a year and a half now, and recognizing our new team and our new management team and our new structure. Mm-hmm. And so we had a lot to celebrate. So it was fantastic.
Yeah,
despite the COVID craziness. And thanks to Monte, we've been able to get our staffing where it needs to be. So thank you, Monte. And
really happy to work on the project. Susan is awesome. She's a recruiter's dream, because she's a manager who's responsive, and yet she's a real person too. So you kind of get the best of both worlds with Susan.
Yeah, she's a heart-to-heart girl. I mean, with me as a feminine energy, we can get on the phone, we can cry together and go, oh my gosh, what's happening? But at the same time, I can delegate and say, talk to Monte, talk to Neil, talk to so-and-so, and she gets it done, man. So she's just a rock star. I can't ask for a better leader. So Susan, congrats to you if you're watching us.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part of the discussion today. It's really, and I'm really excited to go through this. It's about, communicating that value proposition, the company value proposition, both internally and externally, to make sure that we can, people want to work for our companies, right? So
Right.
I'm excited to hear a lot about that.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to invite Monte today, because we've had such a great, which we'll talk about. We had such a great experience working together before. And it all comes down to now more than ever, your value system and what you want to be in the community and take care of your people, from a talent acquisition standpoint, to be able to convey that to your candidates and get the right fit at the right time with the right company is
Right.
so important. And we're refining, we're tuning, we're adjusting with all this time. And it's been quite a learning process, but I think it's happening. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I don't know if this is a typical. I mean, this is a typical cycle that I see, Monte, as far as the hiring period really starts and slows down at this Q3 typically, and then starts up again in Q1 for the next year. Is that a typical cycle?
It really depends on the industry. Some industries aren't like calendar cyclical. Healthcare is 24/7, 365, especially since COVID. And COVID has really affected healthcare in a variety of ways. That's my specialty, so I'll just speak on that for 1 second, because there's a lot of things that are misunderstood about it. But healthcare is divided versus in a couple different areas. There's a lot of secondary surgeries. There's a lot of non-urgent care. Then there's urgent care and emergency. And COVID has slammed urgent care and emergency. But a lot of these secondary surgeries, which are the companies we represent, had just basically gone through a very difficult time. So, it's very complicated right now. Getting back to your original question, though.
Well, let's just hold there for a month, because we're at time. We're at the top of the hour right now, so we have to kick off.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
But
hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll talk about it.
Plenty to talk about it. I'll hold that thought for sure.
For sure. Well, thank you guys so much. I mean, we have such engaging conversations. So good morning, hello, or good evening, wherever in the world you are. We are here today doing our People Strategies Forum. And as you see on our screen here, the mastermind of leaders dedicated to creating workplaces where people thrive, employers reward, and customers love. And so we are so happy to have you again if you are joining us every week. So 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So wherever you are, this is where we're at. You can always find our forums at compteam.net, compteam.net. So we're going to get started today. My name is Shar Miller, and I have been an HR person in the HR world of what I call blah, blah, blah HR world for many, many years. I am now have grown into more of a people strategist and a talent management strategist. And I'm happy to own a company called Rocky Mountain Health Advocates. And I love my company, a small startup that we started several years ago. And I'm using all the people strategy concepts I talk about with my company. Also, I am working with CompTeam and Sam and that team as a talent management strategist. And then I also do a little career coaching on the side, because I think a lot of us are going through career transformation. I call that HR with a heart. Yes, I do care, and I love people that are going through career transformation, and I help them through these difficult times. So I'm happy to work with Sam Reeve, and he has just been phenomenal talent and a great leader of CompTeam, and he's the CEO and founder of this organization. And he has a whole group that has helped us put together these people strategy forums. And I think we kicked this off at the end of March, when all of this started to go off as far as our world or reorganization and our new normal. And we have just had some delightful speakers at our people strategy forums. Also, Lisa Jackson works with us, and she is just a culture strategist. So she works with Culture Pros, and with Culture Pros, she goes in and analyzes everyone's culture and what we can do to revise it, which is far beyond just employee engagement and people strategy programs. She is not able to join us today, but she is always with us, and she'll join us in future forums. Also, Sumit Singla is joining us today. And Sumit, man, I have to say, I'm so super impressed. He's got a brilliant mind. He's a genius, and he's got some great companies that he's worked with. And today he'll be helping us with our chats. So before I introduce our guest speakers today, just want to go through the logistics. You're going to notice that today down in the chat, you can participate with us and communicate. Let us know of your topics, interests, stories, anything you'd like us to reflect upon. We will engage you in the chat and the Q&A as much as we can. And we'd love to know what you're thinking. Also, we'd love for you to share us, share our LinkedIn and all your social media platforms. Because if you're like me, you got 5 social media or 6 social media platforms, you can share us on that and help your other colleagues, other business leaders, executives, CEOs, HR leaders, talent management experts. Please refer us, and we'd love to have them part of our discussion. So today I'd love to introduce Monte George, and he is the president of Talent. Is it TRN? Is Talent? What is it, Monte?
The Recruiting Network.
Talent Recruiting Network, yes. And as you can see here, he is just a great amount of background. I personally worked with Monte. We have gone way back when I worked with another company as an interim HR director, and he has helped me out immensely with some recruiting and talent acquisition aspects, and he's going to help us out. And he's been phenomenal. And Monte, can you briefly say some of the companies that you've helped in the past?
Oh, absolutely. Well, in alcohol beverage, when I originally started out, we worked with Miller Brewing, Anheuser-Busch, Bacardi USA, and then transitioned over to healthcare, and we worked with most of the major healthcare agencies nationwide. But we probably get more joy out of working with private practices, smaller businesses, to be able to help them as well. So a real wide variety of companies that we've worked with in the last 15 or 20 years, and primarily working in healthcare now.
Fantastic. So you're going to hear about our story of Monte and I working together, not only as an interim HR director, but also as as the chief HR officer and owner of a company now, how we've partnered and share these stories. And so he's going to be a delight. But also, before we get started today, I also want to mention that we have a poll, and Sam Reeve will pull this up shortly. And in the poll, you can ask if you'd like to have a one-on-one with any one of us. So what we offer is a 15-minute consultation with myself or Sam or Sumit or Lisa, but also Monte. If you'd like to talk with us for 15 minutes, oftentimes we're very generous with our time, and we will give you a little bit more than 15 minutes. So if you'd like to do that, just click the poll. And then also, we talk a lot about what's called the TMA assessment, which we'll refer to throughout our presentation today. And I suggest you take advantage of that free TMA assessment. It's our gift to you. And it's a personality, drives, talents, ambitions, interests, competency type of analysis to help you as a business leader, and then perhaps you'd like to cascade that throughout your company. So I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into our presentation today. And Sam is sharing his screen. So today we're going to talk about recruiting the best talent and really focusing on what we call the value proposition. So when you're looking at hiring the very best people, you have to be aligned with values and be able to articulately communicate that. So that's what Monte and I are going to chit chat about and go through. And you're going to notice Sumit and Sam particularly are going to be monitoring the chat and watching what everyone's talking about, and then we integrate that into the discussion. So that's what we're going to do. So, hey, Monte, did you want to start sharing your screen?
Oh yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you, Shar.
Sure.
Take a look here.
And we tried, just for those of you sharing time with us today, we don't keep this extremely presentation style. We really like to have more of a deeper conversation and really share some best practices and have some dialogue.
Sure. I'm having a little technical problem right here, but I can actually go through this. If you can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll go through each screen. It's not going to go slideshow, but we can still talk about it. You know, thank you, Shar, for the introduction. And I have to say, I really enjoy working with you throughout our career together. It's been about 10 years. Our previous relationship, you know, I found out what an amazing non-blah, blah, blah HR manager you are. You're like the real deal. And, you know, in my experience, doing this almost 30 years, I've probably worked with 250 HR managers, and truly you're top 3 all time. You're the best. You really
Oh,
are.
well,
So
thank you. I would say I'm a disruptor and I'm a little non-traditional. I think those that work with me would probably get the gist.
every company needs a little disruption. That's for
Right.
sure. But anyway, so having worked with Shar in the past and then currently working with her at Rocky Mountain Healthcare Advocate, um, it's really, it's a great experience to be able to help a company that like Rocky Mountain that is in a high growth phase right now. You guys started off, you know, you were kind of in a single area of focus and then you immediately branched out and, you know, took advantage of the opportunities and yet still being very careful legally, which I was very impressed. I was happy to join your team, and I'll probably use some examples from staffing your company as we go. So without
Well,
further,
thank
go
you.
ahead.
Yeah, we're very much about compliance and doing that. And it's a challenge as as we're growing so fast. So I appreciate your acknowledgement of that.
Absolutely. We love that part for sure. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what is the current candidate landscape. Um, Here's kind of the issue that I see with a lot of clients. They find a candidate they like, they laser lock on that candidate. They perhaps shut down other potential candidates during that time because they've decided that they want to go with a particular candidate. And we've all done it. It's just like myopia, where you just see something you want, you go for it. So the thing to think about is that candidates have more choices than ever before due to online search, social media companies like Indeed, which is, you know, one time was a pretty big powerhouse, but has really been taken over by ZipRecruiter and LinkedIn. So candidates know that they have a lot of opportunities, and we're going to talk a little bit about that on the, you know, further into it. But the candidate landscape is they have choices, and they have access to information. Um, and then a lot of companies who are too traditional want to move too slowly. There's a major shortage of strong, experienced candidates in most industries. For example, in healthcare, there'll be a shortage of RNs for the next 40 years. I mean, we just can't catch up. So every RN knows that they have an advantage going into an interview, that they have several choices. One thing I want to discuss is that the best candidates get picked very quickly. Shar knows this from her experience. You have to be ready to make an offer when a star is identified. In other words, let's just say you have a 4-part interview process, but somehow you've either recruited or been referred a candidate who you just know in the interview is a superstar. You need to move them quickly through the process and be ready to pull the trigger, because if you see them as a superstar, trust me, someone else is as well. And unless they're a passive candidate, the clock is ticking.
So hey,
Yeah.
Monte, as you're transitioning, I've got a couple of IT experts here
Okay.
suggesting you I think they're saying to try to go to the slide mode.
I tried
Um,
to, yeah, I did try and go to the slide mode. It's not coming up for whatever.
on the right hand side.
On the right hand.
Sam, are you on?
I'm on, but unfortunately, it's on
Here we
Monte's
go.
computer. So
I got it.
okay, there we go.
Cool.
Awesome.
Hey, woohoo!
Yay. Thanks, tech people. Appreciate that.
Yay!
Okay, so
Thanks, Demetrius.
right. The last thing I want to talk about in this area is, and this is something we've done with Shar with her company, is if you're in a position or you're in a company that can have fairly high turnover for whatever reason, you know, COVID's changed a lot of companies. Some companies just have jobs that are kind of difficult, and or they're in a place where there's a lot of competition, so there's going to be high job turnover. Build a bench strength of candidates. Don't just look in the, you know, in the near term and say, okay, I've got 3 jobs to fill, I'm going to find 5 candidates, put them through. Start thinking about what's my next area that may be a weakness, and start building a bench strength in that area. or take a position where there's fairly high turnover and say, I don't need to interview 3 candidates, I need to talk to 7, and maybe talk to 2 about, hey, as things open up, I'll stay in contact with you. We'd love to have you come in. And you just text them once a week and say hello. And as things clear out or change, then you have a bench strength you can start working with.
Yeah, I think yesterday when I was doing my management meeting, we were really talking about our bench strength because, yeah, I mean, the holes in the slots are close to getting filled. But we also anticipate that we're going to have some turnover because some of our we already see some behaviors that are going to indicate someone's going to leave.
Right.
and so it's really reassuring to have that dialogue and really get prepared and have those relationships, because oftentimes employees are not, there are employees looking for new opportunity and waiting for the opportunity to resign. I mean, not everyone's in that position, but resign and give a 2-week notice or however long notice and be able to transition to our organization for a future opportunity. So
Absolutely.
it definitely takes a lot of relationship building and finesse and communication, and also respect for people leaving other organizations too.
Absolutely. And one of the things we've been able to do with your company, Shar, is we've got candidates who are very qualified from other areas that are moving to Denver that would like to interview. And Susan and I have decided at this point, we're not going to take their interviews, but once they get here and get established, maybe a couple of weeks or whatever it takes, then we'll definitely speak to them, because it's nice to bring people from outside the area with a fresh perspective. And, some of those Midwest states have got some very strong work ethic areas. So it's pretty nice when, candidates are coming in.
Right. It's
So,
pretty. It's interesting also helping them get reestablished in a new area, and they have perhaps a trailing partner. We used to call it trailing spouse, but the trailing partner. So it's a whole process of supporting them with that relocation process.
yeah, and then it builds loyalty because they
Mhm.
remember that you're the person that helped them when they were new in town and didn't know anyone. So excellent. Um, let's see. Okay, some key candidate communication points. As you're recruiting candidates and as you're talking to prospective people to look at the job, the first thing you need to ask yourself as an employer is my candidate active or passive? Active candidates have applied directly to openings via various sources, whether it's your website or ZipRecruiter or maybe even through LinkedIn. Active candidates are working at least as many jobs as you have candidates. So let's just say that you have a job, a standard job open, and you've got 5 candidates. The people who are actively applying to it probably are applying to 10 jobs, maybe 15. And so now it's it's a little bit of a race, and the best candidates really do get picked up very quickly. The first client to offer them a good deal, or the first company to make a great offer to them, they're almost always going to move. So I just, it's easy to think that we're kind of working in a bubble, but it's real time. And I talk to my people constantly. I just remind them we're in a race. We're in a race against, the client themselves to find it, other contacts, other recruiters. So when you find a good candidate, you must move quickly. And because they're working on a lot of jobs. Active candidates need information, but not too much selling of the position. And this is another thing we run into. If you get a great candidate and you're excited and you start selling them, it's almost better to have them pump the brakes and say, this is what I don't like about the job, and see if they're real.
Right.
Because, if I'm having Shar or Susan talk to my people, I want to make sure that they're not going to say in the middle of the interview, no, that's not what I want. And occasionally it happens, people are not prepared.
I would absolutely agree, and that's actually happened to us. And I think we've set the environment where we can be very transparent. It's not like a authoritarian interview where everything the employer says is exactly what the candidate needs to agree to. We've set the environment to say, is this really a good fit for you? And let's really talk about that. Let's learn about it now and not be offended or, annoyed at the person that says, you know what, this company might not be a good fit for me.
Absolutely.
but the leader and the pre-screening process with your organization and the leader development of my organization has really made it so the environment so we can really upfront talking about that before they ghost you.
Oh,
So,
we're going to talk about ghosting.
I forewarned your presentation.
That's awesome. Well, the one good thing about active candidates, though, and this is where it's really worked out well for Rocky Mountain Health Advocates, is candidates are generally motivated, and if they like your company, they'll generally speaking, they'll pull the trigger. They may have to give a week's notice and at this level of position. Sometimes there's some extenuating circumstances that have to be explained, but for the most part, they're ready to start almost immediately, which has also helped us. Passive candidates, they've been contacted via your database. Maybe somebody looked through it and said, this is a perfect fit candidate, or a referral from another employee. They're generally not looking for a new position when contacted. You know, it's kind of like Santa Claus. You show up and say, I have a present for you. You can open it. Are you excited? And sometimes people are excited to look at something. Almost everybody's at least curious. Curiosity about the position or opportunity needs to be developed. So, you know, you have to kind of ask some questions. How are things working out with your current job? Tell me about your boss. Are you making enough money? Give them a chance to talk a little bit about the position, and then talk to them about what you like and a few things that maybe that you don't like about the company, to be completely transparent. And, you know, obviously what you're trying to do is get a fit and make sure people are willing to work weekends. You know, that's an important aspect of this job. Make sure that they're willing to go out, you know, and contact the public during COVID, because I had 3 candidates in this job say, I don't want contact with people. And I'm like, okay, so did you read the job description? Did we discuss the position? You know, suddenly, you know, people may back out of positions, and it may be transparent, or there may be other factors. So sometimes you can't find out, but
Yeah,
anyway,
that is
go ahead.
definitely I've actually been talking to some potential candidates recently, and just using my company as an example, we're definitely a public facing company currently. And yes, we'd love to have a remote opportunity, but we're really not that right now. Maybe in the future. So it is really a heart to heart. We candidates might be very desperate about the paycheck, the job security, the fact that we pay very competitively and we have benefits and everything else. But if you're not comfortable facing the public right now, this is not going to be a good fit.
Right.
Um,
Yes. It's
and I'd much
definitely
rather that happen on the front end
yeah.
than when going through the entire interview process. And
Well,
and
and
then
it's
oh, go ahead.
changed, right? It's changed in
Hmm.
the last 9 months. Before that, it wasn't as big of a deal. And a lot of people want to get into this type of medical device industry, part of the medical device and, you know, testing. There's a perception, you know, that it's completely a medical device calling on doctors. And then you have to kind of steer them back to, no, this is working with the public, you know, for a great genetic test. So people, I think, with science backgrounds get very interested in it. And that's been a nice bonus for us, science and healthcare, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely been a journey. The way we were recruiting 6 months ago is definitely not the way we're recruiting today.
I'm glad to hear that, Shar, for sure. So getting back to passive candidates, they the one of the drawbacks, generally, they need time to understand the opportunity, which that's not a drawback. You want them to consider it. But the benefits of the position when you're talking to them are critical. It will take them generally time to move off or go through the interview process because they weren't planning it. And for certain, they're going to give 2 weeks notice, maybe even 30 days if they have a good position, but still want to try you out. So, you know, if time is of the essence, then this candidate becomes more of a bench strength type candidate, but still recruiting we need to do. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, what are the key values of the company? And sure, I really think you can speak to this from an HR perspective. I kind of made this page for you, so we
Okay,
can interact. But you know,
sure.
when you're communicating to candidates, I think you should be summarizing the following. And the first and foremost is, what is the corporate culture? What do you and Bruce believe in? What senior management say? What are the marching orders from the top?
Well, I'll just start answering your questions. Our employees are not about selling widgets, as I say. So we're not here to really talk about what we do as far as our company materials that we have, but we're here about health advocacy. So our employees want that we're looking for really would have the values of caring about people's health and promotion of health during these critical times, and providing the resources and the tools and the support and the infrastructure to help employees. So it's although it's nice to have a top salesperson, what we really are looking for is, okay, it's great that you've sold things in the past, but we also want to have an employee that has the values of compassion, dignity, and respect, which is our three main core values: compassion, dignity, respect, that will always take care of others and their community. So it's a fine balance of finding that individual that really cares about others, and also that can be assertive and communicate and a problem solver and dynamic. Um, and so it's a real interesting thing to find the right candidate that fits that personality type.
Well thought
Um,
out as always, for
yeah,
sure. That's a great answer, Shar. I love listening to you talk about HR because, unfortunately, most HR people don't think like you do, and it makes the job much more difficult. So tell me, let's shift gears a little bit. What are the company goals for Rocky Mountain Healthcare Advocates?
so our goals is to approach our community health in a very different and dynamic way. It's more of an advocacy approach than just getting a test done or getting uh, a procedure done. Um, we are actually a marketing company. So our goals are to expand, but not just opening up new locations, to expand the capabilities of our employees and our leaders, and have growth in more of our internal growth. It's kind of hard to explain that, but
That's great.
um, our goals is to have the very best talent that are super excited about the place they work, to be, as the old phrase is, the employer of choice. Our goals is to have the community respect us, because there has been a lot of judgment and fraud in our industry in the past. And we want to be way beyond that. We want to be able to say, we're compliant. We are here to advocate for your health. We're here to support you and grow and support everything there. So, and we are going through a strategic analysis of our new goals, because this COVID thing hit, and it's like our old goals went off the wayside like 5 months ago. And so now my managers and I and director and leadership team, we're now coming together to have a universal buy-in of all of us. So we really believe in these new goals going into 2021. So for example, I handed out these holiday cards that were all about the new year of 2021. So what can we do to be the example of health advocacy going into the new year? And so we're working on it. We're redeveloping it and redesigning it. So
You have to be flexible. Times are changing for sure.
times are
Whatever
changing fast.
the new
And now that
normal.
I have a new management team, uh, they are so awesome. I can't even tell you. Their ideas about our new goals into the new year are phenomenal.
That's
And
us.
I'm so excited as we grow into the new year.
That's great. Oh, let's take another topic, Shar. What are your expectation of your employees?
So we were talking about this yesterday at my staff meeting, and expectations, from a logistical standpoint, yeah, we expect you to come to work on time. We expect you to, we have locations that we can't have shut down. Communicate when you're having to take time off or you're ill or family ill. But the expectations are now developing into something deeper. It's not your traditional performance evaluation expectations. We've utilized our TMA everything I've learned with Comp Team, and we're talking about competencies, capabilities, and growth and development. And I would expect all of my employees to identify their talents, their skill sets, their drives, and be able to grow with us and align their talents to the growth of the company. It's not as concrete and widget as it was when I used to be in HR in a corporate world 5 years ago. It wasn't like you gotta,
I'm kind of curious, you just dovetailed into something perfect.
okay.
Yeah, I'll go to the last bullet point, examples of candidate success. Do you talk about success stories within the company, or, how certain people perform that maybe isn't ideal for others, or do you give recognition? Talk to me about that.
Oh, you're so good. You're such a good interviewer. Yes. We talk about stories all the time. So we've had a client come in that, if she had not come in, she would not have been prompted to go to her doctor and learn that she did really have cancer. She came in and crying, and we're not diagnosing cancer, but whatever we talked about and whatever resources we gave her prompted her to go in and learn that she really did have some health issues. She came back later and she was just tearful and appreciative. And so yes, I would say the employee that had that client, that shared that compassion for that client, to help that client realize they needed medical attention, that was a candidate success. And what we've done is said, learn more about this field, learn about things that you can talk about without feeling timid or shy to say, these are the things you should look at. And here's some successful candidate or successful employees that have done things that have really just knocked it out of the park and have got the credibility to do a great job with our company. Now from the candidate aspect, we've hired new hires that, believe it or not, within the first 2 weeks have been one of our top candidates, top new employees within the first 2 weeks. Because we hired the right person for the right place, the right time. And we've definitely celebrated that without, stepping on the toes of our long-term employees. We've said, here is a developmental opportunity. We brought in a new candidate. They have this skill set, this talent. How can we help you learn from that? And you can teach what you know. And then pair them up into a developmental space. So it's a very different recruiting process,
It
It's
is.
not like, here's the long-term employee, they know everything. They're the old hat. Here's the new employee, they don't know anything. We've really embraced this, philosophy that we're bringing in all these individuals that can help. We can learn from each other moving into this space.
Let
So,
me ask you about metrics, because it's tough in this industry. Like you said, there's been corruption in the past, but are there position goals and metrics and team goals and metrics, or are you guys using a less quantified and more qualified? I'm just curious how that works.
yeah, well, we've grown in this space because in our industry, it can't just be about the number of things that we quote sell.
Right.
In our industry, that is actually
Did we lose Shar? Maybe we lost me.
So we just lost Shar, so hopefully she'll come back here.
Okay. I lost
So
you for a minute, but you're back sound
yeah,
wise.
so just really quick, Monte, as where we're waiting for Shar to come back in. I mean, it is, I think these are some great questions overall as far as what, how to diagnose a particular candidate to see, or a particular company to see what they're looking for in a candidate. But what do we see that candidates are looking for right now in companies? Is there any trends you're seeing right now as far as what they want in this COVID period? Is it different than the
I
past?
think it's a great question. I think they want flexibility first and foremost. There's no rigid, you can't come in and work 9 to 5 in a company anymore. Obviously, there's a combination of meetings like this over Zoom and other media, and also people just working at home, working from computers, stations, whatever at home, or doing part-time in and out of the office with COVID. But I think so flexibility is really important to a lot of employees or prospective candidates. And what we see on our side in healthcare, a lot of RNs and nurse practitioners are in demand. So they kind of created their own flexibility. Instead of working for one company for 40 hours, let's say for $50 an hour and getting moderate benefits, what they'll do is they'll work like maybe 20 hours for company A that offers excellent salary and no benefits, and then work 20 hours for company B who offers very average salary but excellent benefits. So they're working all of their overtime for company A and getting paid a tremendous amount, and company B is giving them the best value for their family.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's I think so they're looking for companies with integrity, with a very good message. During COVID times, nobody's looking for, pardon the term, fuckery. They're looking for solid companies that are going to back
by
them.
the way.
What's that?
I'm back.
Nice moment, right?
The first word I heard was
You
that.
knew I dropped my first F-bomb, but it's a term that candidates can kind of see if things are. It's not so much that they're disorganized, but if they're inconsistent and the message is not clear from the company, then they're going to put it in the category that I just named and say, you know what, company B and C that I'm interviewing with, and maybe like through G, are all showing better signs, and you get shortlisted and then ghosted very quickly. And once a millennial ghosts you, you have like a 1 in 100 shot of bringing them back. And I actually don't give up myself, and I'll talk a little bit about that. There's techniques to at least feel that if you have a great candidate, you've done everything from being, from a client standpoint of not ghosting out. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So Shar, we were talking a little bit about metrics, and we decided in your industry that's almost a bad word, but at the same time, you run a business and it should be profitable, right? So
well, I wouldn't say metrics is a bad word. It's just that we focus that behaviors and competencies and productivity. It's interesting in the HR world that it doesn't need to be about numbers of actual products sold, because the behaviors and the competencies and everything else can be measured. It can be. I know that sounds kind of difficult to do, but for example, in healthcare, we actually measure a nurse that washes their hands, that actually washes their hands on to get to their patients.
Absolutely.
And it's like, well, that
isn't
number of patients or number of overnight stays. No, that is a behavior to take care of the health and well-being of your patient.
Sure.
So it can be measured. A metric can be done.
Okay.
Beyond just a number of things that are done.
Outstanding. Okay, so thanks for rattling through the HR perspective on this. It's always good, to hear from you because you're a progressive thinker. And, I like the fact that you've always stood with your style. It didn't matter what the situation was. Shar has a process that she uses that's successful. And, I watched you be very flexible in an organization that was difficult for both of us. But the one thing I will say is you never lose your will to win. And that's a great thing. Okay,
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about recruiting in COVID. This is interesting. I'm working with a different client. It's an educational client. And in the interview process, they talk to people and say, okay, but you're mainly going to be on Zoom and processing. It's a social worker job. But post-COVID, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to be back in the school. There'll be, 3 days at the school, 2 days. People want to know what it's going to be. They want to know during COVID, am I just going to wear my mask and go to work? Or is there a different process on how we home office? What are the protocols? So candidates are now aware that there are two positions, one current during COVID, and then the new normal, if you will. I know that's kind of passe, but whatever the next step antiviral or anti-herd immunity, which we might talk a little bit about. How does the role look during COVID and post-COVID? That's just what we were talking about. We just want to make sure that not only management, but HR is defining some of those areas, right? Right, Shar?
Right.
I mean, it's a
Yeah,
hot,
I would say HR leaders and people leaders are definitely going through this rapid awareness of how this is going to revise in this world of transition.
so let me ask you this. Rocky Mountain Healthcare Advocates, a lot of people contact because you have to gain the trust to sell your product. And you're in a large gathering of people environment. So what does Rocky Mountain Healthcare Advocate do to protect their people and also the public? I'm just curious.
Well, we're constantly improving. Obviously the masks, the face shields, we're ordering the plexiglass, obviously keeping the social distancing. We've changed the way we do our testing, so it's a personal process. It's not us like in the face of our client. But then even yesterday we were, those of you that have been watching me for a while know that I actually live part-time in Mexico right now. And believe it or not, Mexico is, it's kind of interesting in other cultures how we kind of criticize other cultures. They're doing things differently than we do in the United States. Putting the protective mats on the floors so people can sanitize their feet when they walk in, making sure that we're sanitizing our hands, making sure that we're taking the temperatures of every single person that walks in, and still being able to operate our businesses effectively. And so I had a long talk with my employees yesterday to say, maybe we could do more. I mean, I've seen another culture, another country do better than we are here in the United States. And guess what? They're able to keep their restaurants open. They're able to keep their businesses thriving. We're here, and no offense to my lovely state of Colorado, I see that we're being stagnated and shut down and not able to keep our businesses thriving to take care of their employees and their clients. So we're growing and learning. And I explained to my staff yesterday, let's be the leader in this space. Let's demonstrate how we can model how to be a thriving opening company to take care of our community and take care of ourselves and lead the way. And my employees are like, yes, let's talk about it. Let's be innovative. Let's be progressive. Let's think about different ways we can do this. Yeah. So I think the answer is you have to involve your employees. You have to bring the different experiences, such as what I bring back from my travels recently, and then problem solve. And it's not just a mandate from the top down. All of us can do better, and we all can learn from what we're learning from other companies and other situations, and teach each other how to keep everyone safe. One quick example I'm going to say, and then I'll let you.
Please
we recently, an employee said, let's have phone sanitizers at every location. So every time a client comes in, we sanitize everybody's phone if they choose to have their phone sanitized, and it's free. But what a beautiful idea to help show the community you can do things like sanitize your phone.
It's a great idea. It's a leadership idea, and it builds trust. It shows people that your company is going the extra mile.
Yeah, I mean, the phone sanitizers are less than $100. But just to show the public, you could have one of these at home. You can go on Amazon, order these for, $40,
Right.
But just educating the public about varying things around COVID and resistant to the, doing those things is very rewarding to my employees, to be able to teach the public about that.
Absolutely. Well, and it kind of dovetails into our next topic, which is to have a transition plan as vaccines are developed and herd immunity is reached. So for your business, Sharon, I'm kind of curious about this. I've been thinking about it as I recruit people. The malls can't be exactly as they once were, but I may have no numbers to know what percent they were. But as people come back to the malls, as people come back to places like Vegas, I mean, I've heard some stories saying it's going to be like the Roaring 20s when everything is back, and that there's going to be a lot of partying, there's going to be a lot of shopping. I mean, that's a big boom for your business. Are you guys ready to get back to normal?
Well, we had to talk about that. I mean, we actually surprisingly have been doing better than we thought. Um, and I personally was at a couple of my locations yesterday, and I was surprised at the number of people in the locations. Yeah, we're preparing for that. We are doing both sides. Either we're shut down, or we're going to do okay. You know, um, we're keeping the flexibility and the opportunity open for our staff to be prepared for either way to go. But luckily, my employees only work part-time, so at full-time pay pretty much. And so, we're telling them, just be prepared, prepared for the fact that we may get super busy or we may completely shut down.
Yeah.
So our goal in our values is to be 100% transparent. So in fact, my lovely partner Bruce is probably too transparent at times. I mean, we basically tell him everything that's going on day to day with our partnerships, with what we see in the government, what we see legally, and we're just very open and honest.
How
So,
refreshing.
well, and our employees know. I mean, I even tell them, I'm not telling you how to save money in your bank account, or just be prepared. We don't know. I mean, it may feel thriving today with the Christmas period and holiday period and a lot of people, a lot of public coming in, but that may change in a couple weeks. So be prepared for that. So we're very honest and open about everything. We don't pretend that things are happening that are not happening. And then every meeting I say, what are your thoughts about this? What do you think is going on? What have you heard in the media? What have you learned from the schools and the government? What's your perspective? And we had a 2-hour meeting yesterday just talking about that kind of thing.
That's great. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you just hit my next 2 points. Make your new employees feel safe and connected. Well, you do that by doing the policies you're talking about, having meetings, allowing a forum to happen and getting input from probably, I'm guessing your senior employees or your people who've been there the longest are probably more willing to share. And then new employees get, they feel interested to be able to talk as well. Um, you know, be innovative and flexible with your employee needs, transparency. That's it. To me, it's like if they know what's happening, then there's a lot less rumoring that happens and people becoming discouraged because they feel like the mushroom that they're in the dark and being shat upon. It's
Yeah.
good to let people know.
Well, we have had a few behaviors where some of our employees have been concerned. And we're going to sit down and have a dialogue and say, okay, let's openly talk about it. Particularly those that are in training positions for our new staff. And I'm sure every industry is going through that process right now. There's people really worried how their company's handling this period. So if you're worried and you're training our new people and you're conveying that to our new employees, we need to have an open dialogue about it. And so it's been great. I mean, my employees have reacted very well that I'm able to set the stage and say, we're willing to hear, we're willing to listen and acknowledge that we aren't 100% perfect.
And who is, what company is, what person is. So it's just
Right.
better to not act like, to put on airs. Well, that's all for my presentation. Hopefully we were able to share some insights and just talk on topics that both affect companies, candidates, HR departments, recruitment, the whole gambit. It's great to share with you, Shar. As always, you're just fun to collaborate with.
Well, I appreciate you too, Monte. And I think having you as a recruiter, I probably could do a good job recruiting because I have a massive LinkedIn network. I'm pretty well connected. People kind of know me. And I've worked with a lot of major healthcare systems in the past. But having a person like you that is not necessarily completely with the company completely, you can see outside of the weeds above the trees. Yeah. And be aware with what's happening in the world. I think as a leader, I have found when we first started last year, I was completely relying on Indeed and LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter, and I even tried Viva HR and a few other talent acquisition organizations. And we were frustrated because we couldn't, my leaders didn't have the time to wade through all the candidates. And as we all understand, it's just it's overwhelming to weed through all the candidates. We needed the personal touch because our company's view of how we take care of our clients and our values needed someone that could really tune in and be connected to the candidates. And so one morning I had an epiphany. I'm like, I worked with this guy named Monte like years ago. He was awesome. I wanted my director, my managers to have a one-stop shop. They could call you, text you, you'd be responsive. Obviously you have another business to run as well, but at least they know that you're there and we could talk about it. And also that the fact that you and your organization was so flexible with our TMA method, the way that we interview differently, the way that we ask interview questions differently relative to the TMA. And you were like, yeah, I totally accept that. That's totally the way we're going to do with some pre-screening. And so I highly recommend all companies, HR leaders, progressive HR talent people to really think about how you're hiring differently. And just sticking your job posting on a job portal is not a great way of finding the best candidates. Yeah, you're going to probably get 50 candidates on your electronic resume thing. Your leaders are going to be so swamped that they aren't going to have time to look through the resumes, quite candidly. And then your candidates are going to be pissed off because they're going to put their resume into the black hole and they're never going to hear anything.
Well, Shar, your company in particular is only as strong as its people. We've got to have strong healthcare advocates in every position at every mall. So to make sure that it's maximized, perhaps some of the old guard kind of moves forward as the new guard comes on and is exactly what you want. And, companies evolve. Some of the people who are there who can adapt and go with the new philosophy, it's great. Other than that, we bring, new blood in, people who are flexible, hungry, and with some very good medical healthcare science background, but also understand the importance of customer service, which is the marquee of sales, right? Without good customer service, you can't make a sale.
Right. And I would say on that caveat, I would say what makes us very attractive is that we believe in our employees working part-time so they can follow their other passions. Like we have one of our leaders, recent leaders, she's going to correct me. Okay, Ashley, I apologize. I think she's in something anesthesiology related, but it's something like that. So she's going to school and she's eventually going to get her clinical PhD or whatever it is. But we balance that. We're like, we're going to help you not only work with our company, be a leader of our company, grow with our company, bring your clinical knowledge and help educate our employees. But we do acknowledge in maybe the next 3 years, when you finish your college, you're going to probably move on. And we celebrate that. We talk about that. It's not like we're afraid to help her, relocate to a new opportunity.
And it's a symbiotic relationship because look what you're gathering from her and look what she's able to get from you in experience. It's a great partnership.
Yeah, and I have others. I frequently tease. I got a guy that loves drumming. He's a drummer. He's all over the country drumming. I have another employee who happens to be in a wheelchair, and he's very open about it. And he's one of our managers of compliance now. We just promoted him. And he is in 5 different volunteer organizations relative to helping hospitals and those with disabilities and all kinds of other organizations. And so he loves our company because we support him with his dreams and ambitions. And then my company supports me because I do talent management strategy. But when we're hiring people, we want to say, this company is going to support your dreams and ambitions. We are not the end all. Just like any restaurant industry, just like any other service industry, that's not their overall life dream, most likely, right? Is your lifelong dream to be a bartender? Perhaps. You want to be a bartender until retirement? Maybe not. Maybe you want to do bartending plus follow your dreams. And so that's the kind of company we're trying to do. It's like, we're going to help you follow your dreams, get development, competencies, learning, contribute to my organizations, follow your values, back to the value proposition, take care of our clients and our communities and have one of the very best employer experiences that you could ever have, and get benefits and get good pay and be able to balance your life. But you know, when I worked in corporate, like many years ago, I would not have been talking about this. I was the talent management strategist talking about employee engagement and performance evaluation revamp and how we're going to communicate better our corporate strategies and the
Blah,
other
blah,
blah, blah, blah. And today, it's like I talk so differently about talent management strategy. And it is just a beautiful a strategic process that you, Monte, your company is a nice balance with what our overall strategies are.
Mhm.
And we're going to be offering some masterminds here soon. I know Sam's in the wings here. We're going to offer some masterminds. We'd love to have you as a key expert with us if you'd like to join us in the
Expert
world
witness.
of talent acquisition.
Love.
Huh?
I would love to.
Yes, and we're going to offer this for all of our followers and our executive leaders and our experts. And we're going to bring in all these key pieces and fragment them out in all the aspects of talent management strategy. So we are so happy to have you. I don't have a watch on because I'm on Mexico time.
It's Pacific time, it's 9:55, so 10:55 your time.
Okay,
Yeah,
isn't that funny? I don't even know what time it is.
yeah, we have a little bit more time for some questions. We had some things that came through the chat.
Okay,
One particular was a question around how do you identify, is there any trends in the top candidates you see out there? Are they doing certain things to differentiate themselves and to make them more attractive, to a company? Are you seeing any trends there, Monte?
Yeah, actually, we are seeing trends that what we're finding, at least in healthcare, to use that as another example that's close. We have RNs that are going back and becoming nurse practitioners, so they're seeking more education. It gives them a pay raise. It also puts them in a position of greater knowledge and care, and allows them to work possibly more than one position. A lot of times nurse practitioners work several PRN jobs, as Sharon and I were talking. So what I see is significant. And also the other thing I would say is people who are very serious, whether they're in healthcare or any industry, are doing a lot of work on their social media platforms. So their LinkedIn isn't just a basic picture and, a little experience. It's got a full resume with a lot more development. And they are activating the recruiter come find me button, essentially, that raises their hand and says, I'm looking. So, I think candidates that are doing the best are more educated and reinvesting themselves, and also using social media to get that message out to the employers.
Are there other tools that candidates are using? I know that LinkedIn is considered the king in this area, but are there other tools that they are using to help them with their search
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Indeed is kind of the fallback, but Indeed is a little bit outdated. They've tried to kind of keep up, and at one point they were the Cadillac, but now you've got ZipRecruiter, and if I'm a candidate, then ZipRecruiter is going to bring jobs that their AI is essentially finding that matches what I'm looking for, and they've done a great job. I'm not saying every job will be something you're interested in, but with a simple click once a day or once a week, you can kind of keep up on things. And it's got a one button application. So as a candidate, it's very easy to be active on ZipRecruiter, and once you get in the candidate database, then you can be a passive candidate as well, and the research department can find you. So I think LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter are the two kings right now. In the category, there's Glassdoor, and there's a lot of technical. There's nurse practitioner, physician assistant sites that are specialized. I don't know. It's I take more of a broad stroke than micro.
So another thing, there's a lot of due to COVID, there's been a lot of jobs that have kind of been erased, or that people are looking for transitions into a new career. They're getting retooled and retraining on certain skill sets. And perhaps, like, for instance, they're going into, becoming a nurse or something like that, and got their training and so forth. So how does one, a person that, or a candidate that has, that's been pretty seasoned in business, or has been pretty professional, establish themselves in a new career or industry?
Well, I think the first step, and that's a great question. I like that, Sam. I think the first step is to do research. You really want to understand where you're going. Maybe taking some competency tests and just see if you have an aptitude in that area. And then really just at some point you've got to go out and actually do some shadowing, see how the RN works, see what their day is. Everyone has something in their mind of what an RN does, but this isn't Grey's Anatomy. This is, some blood and gut stuff, and you're going to have to be able to handle it. So
Yeah.
when my son was younger, he's 28 now, and he works in the retail industry for Costco. He's a manager, but I had him shadow a physical therapist because he told me that's what he wanted to do. And after a week, he said, I could never do that job, Dad. So, it's really good for people to try and get hands-on if they're going to change industries after they do. And there's plenty of stuff on YouTube that can kind of take you down some paths. And I'm a big YouTube advocate. You can find a lot if you look there.
That's great. Another thing on companies, or when we're in the pre-COVID or several years ago, I mean, there was a big focus on looking at competencies and hiring for the right skill sets, the knowledge, skills, and abilities, and so forth. But recently, there seems to be more focus towards on having the right behaviors, and that being as a dominant over competencies. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think behavior-driven recruitment is a really good way to look at how this person is going to work in your company long term. I think if you're going to look at skills and competencies, then what you're saying is, what does this person add as a value to the company as a number? If you look at behaviors, you're saying, what qualities does this person add to my company, not only in their skill areas, but how will they work within our culture? And I think that's the match, right? A company has a culture, an individual has a behavior, a group of individuals' behavior become the culture. So you really want to bring people in who are not going to be culture shocking your company. My personal example of that, I'll just make it really quick, is I worked at Frito-Lay, and it was a very aggressive culture. It was a Fortune 20 company at one time within PepsiCo, and they really had an aggressive style. The next company I went to was Anheuser-Busch, and they were much more laid back. They were driven by their distributors, kind of a bunch of good old boys. And I brought my Frito-Lay culture there. They basically told me slow down. And after about a year and a half of it, I decided I really couldn't slow down. And the good old boy method, going golfing instead of talking strategy, wasn't for me. And so it was a great way to learn, to keep my mouth shut at times and just not really try and leak the Frito-Lay strategy and the PepsiCo strategy. And the second thing was that if it's not right for you, you really do need to move on, no matter how great the job is.
Yeah.
The culture can kill you. So
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I would say the same thing in all the big corporations I worked with. Very fascinating, and particularly with the bureaucracy of certain cultures, particularly the large organizations, the $160,000 organizations, the partying and the all good old boy network or girl network at the very top. And then they wonder why they're unionized and everything else at every other level in between. It's interesting being that individual that floats and back and forth between the cultures and actually sits at the front line and really hears the people that hold the patient's heart in their hand and truly take care of the patient. And then those that are hobnobbing and on the golf course, they really don't even know what it's like to sit in an operating room or to actually make sure that your equipment is sterile. It's heartbreaking. But today it's like life and death. With COVID, you can't have those cultural differences anymore. You just, it's not about just that you're the most popular or the favorite at the top of the organization. Now it's about saving lives.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I get really passionate about that topic. Culture eats it,
Yeah.
Love it.
Well,
What other questions can I answer for you, Sam?
Yeah. So Sumit, did I capture all the questions on the chat? I think that came through. Some people were using the panelist button instead of the all attendees, so I might have missed some. But
Okay. So in fact, I had a question for you, Monte. With all the remote work that's happening now, would you say that the lines between permanent jobs and gig work are blurring a little? So talent pools are becoming narrow as well as widening in the same sense. I don't know if the question makes sense. I'll try rephrasing if it doesn't. What I'm
Actually, it does make sense. Just rephrase the last part of it a little bit for me, just on the gap on talent pool.
Sure. So you mentioned passive candidates, and I remember reading a LinkedIn research which said that almost an estimated 60 to 70% of job seekers are passive. So, which obviously means if you've got a stronger employer brand and you've got all the cultural elements that Sharon you spoke about, if they're in place, you're actually likely to do a much better job there. So, what I meant was that would it be possible for companies to attract people who are working as gig workers but might be tempted to work full time in exchange for better benefits and good pay, and vice versa? So would it also be possible for companies to lose a lot of talent to people who are now starting to think that I can branch out on my own because I'm not working from a physical building, I don't have those facilities and that infrastructure anymore, so let's give this a shot? So how do recruiters get around both situations is what I'm trying to
Great paraphrase. Thank you very much. It's a great question. Well thought out. I think for recruiters, I think the more questions that we ask early on determines those factors. For example, I was working for a PRN nurse practitioner, and the first question I ask the candidate when they're really getting pretty serious, when I like their CV background, is, are you open to part-time work? And some will say right away, no, I'm only looking for a full-time job. So at this point, what we're trying to do is really be transparent and not waste people's time, because in healthcare and also in business, the other area that we work in, time is money. And I always look at healthcare employees, particularly frontliners, as I'm taking away from their life saving. So let's make it very considerate, if you will, right? So I try and not waste time on those factors. Now, as far as candidates who are currently working full-time who might want to go to part-time, there's many reasons that does happen. Maybe they're burned out, they're at the end of their employment time, but they still do enjoy working. They would just like to work less and pursue hobbies, maybe spend time with their grandkids, travel, those types of things. So it's like, it's weird. And I'm not a generational expert, but I will say that millennials seem to be able to make clear decisions about having their own time and being a little more selfish than my generation. I'm 60. I mean, I just worked as many hours as I could for 30 years. I was definitely a workaholic, 60 hours plus. And I think a lot of people from my generation who were, in the corporate world, they were just grinders. You just grind as many hours to get projects done. And some of those people now are older and saying, hey, I don't have to work 60 hours. I can work 20 hours a week or 25 hours a week and work with more quality. So it's, I think communication and transparency is the answer to the question when you're recruiting candidates in a transitional axis, saying, the candidates I want are now currently working full-time. I want those qualities in a part-time candidate. I don't want a part-time candidate who is not going to give the devotion to the company or maybe be a little, for lack of a better term, flaky, because they're not devoted, right? It's just one of their side gigs, which is, a challenge for Char's company. And
Right.
because she's working with part-time employees, but they pay well, they offer benefits, and it's a great place to work. So yeah, it's a
Well,
challenge.
and yeah, and I agree. That is true. There's kind of a risk about having our employees on kind of more of a 25-hour a week. Also, I was going to ask you, you and I had an interesting conversation relative to what we call the rainmakers. And I would love for you to share what that is, because I was talking to you that we had hired a couple of employees that were what we call rainmakers. So yeah, they had their numbers. When you talk about metrics, they had tons of tests, but when it came to just the basic values of sending an email to let them know they couldn't make it in that day or whatever, they had kind of a sense of arrogance. So can you talk about your rainmaker philosophy?
Yeah, well, a rainmaker is somebody who is a performance-driven individual. I mean, the world is a desert, and when they come, the rain follows them. So it's production, it's brilliance, it's insight. They're usually single-minded people who are going to make things happen, but there are also customer service rainmakers who make everybody feel comfortable. But in the position of the rainmaker, they're a true talent that cannot be taught. How many times have you said, to yourself, Shar, or maybe to Bruce, I wish we had 5 more of this person. What would our company look like? That's a rainmaker. That's the person you're talking about. They're the go-to lightning rod.
Well, they're a lightning rod, and as you and I talked about it, at the same time, the negative impact to the other team members.
Right.
It's like, it's nice to have a rainmaker, and I'd like 5 of them, but at the same time, it demotivates and it actually affects the rest of the team. So it's like, it's a fine balance of having that type of individual. If they're all into it for themselves and don't care about the rest of the team, I would rather not have, the one that brings all the storms in all the time.
Well, and the rainmakers are tricky employees to manage. If you can keep their, I don't know if I would say narcissism, but definitely their strong sense of self and less self of team, that's kind of what drives them to performance, right? So on that standpoint, that's who they are. But on the other hand, if you can soften them and say, here we're a team and it's team goals that matter as well. And if you can incentivize them on team goals, they'll do it because they want money and they want performance recognition.
Right.
And, if you can incentivize them to work as a team instead of just solo practice, and there's ways to do it, of course, the group has got to work together. My wife, by the way, is a rainmaker in her industry. And I would say she has the customer service aspect too. And it's fun to watch her work. And I've seen some people who've been jealous of her performance. But for the most part, the company shields her to make sure that she can do her job. And it's a good thing. It's a challenge, because
Right.
it does disrupt the company to a degree.
Mhm.
Well, I would say in a prior dialogue with that you should go back and listen to the recordings, Monte, but Sumit talked about that culturally, about the whole teaming aspect of recognizing teams, that it's not just the sole one rainmaker, as we're calling it, that is everyone praises down to. It's the team. Sumit, did you want to talk about that briefly, what you shared?
Sure. Before that, on a lighter note, Shar, I think your organization sounds like a great place to work at because you've got rainmakers. You also got somebody who brings in the sunshine. So sounds like a great balance.
It does, yeah.
I'm the sunshine girl.
But yeah, so when I spoke of team rewards, I didn't really intend to talk about a socialist kind of an approach where you just say, let's let 1 or 2 people be the rainmakers and distribute the rewards among the rest, because I think that's a great way to just hold the door open for your rainmakers and say, we don't value you, just get out. And I think we can still maintain some kind of a team focus and highlight to the rainmakers that in order for them to perform and do really well, in most cases, they would need a team to rally around. So for example, if you're a salesperson, you might think of your role as being individual, but you would need a strong delivery team who can go out and implement whatever you're selling. You might need pre-sales consultants or people who are doing the background work for you to go out there and get your 15 seconds of fame. So I think a smart rainmaker would probably be open to learning what goes on behind the scenes to help them bring in the big wins. And I'm fond of sports metaphors. So you could be a star quarterback. You cannot possibly win the game alone, right? So you do need some people to do the heavy lifting for you.
You
And
need
while,
an
yes, you
offensive
might be
line.
the person of the match, but I'm sorry, Monty, what was that?
You need a good offensive line if you're a quarterback, right?
That's right. Yep.
And I think a smart quarterback would realize that, and they would know that, yes, they're probably high functioning members of a great team, but they just cannot win alone.
Yep.
Yeah, so Sumit, between your football and Monty's football, you guys might have a good discussion.
I love football for
Yeah.
certain.
But
Yeah,
I
know
think
you
Monty's,
love football, but so does Sumit has a different kind of football.
yeah, Monty's talking about a oblong type of ball, and
American
Sumit
football.
is about a round one.
I love it. I love it. Okay, good.
No,
So
I
you're talking about European football and I'm talking about the real football. I got you.
Well, that's a long debate, Monty. We'll need a separate session for that.
Okay, that's good.
Well,
Well,
I would
great.
just tell you guys, it definitely as a team, it's kind of interesting, but despite the sports analogies, it's basically very fascinating when you start integrating a brand new team of this high talent, different talents, and then trying to balance it all. And I think in a small company like I have, less than 20 employees, we have a finite opportunity to do that on a smaller scale. It's kind of like a pilot test, you know? And then since I've worked with big, huge organizations of over 100,000 employees in charge of talent management, dialogue, and strategy, it's very interesting to now realize, like, 5-6 years later, how much we need to adapt and change and revise our thinking around it. And I think we will all have differences of opinion, but I love these forums because we're here to be frank and honest and be able to talk about these things and say, what do you think about this? This is kind of beyond the box,
Right. That's right.
It's fantastic.
Or what
So
exactly is real football?
It's playing the real stadium.
Yeah.
We can get into this later, Sumit. I'm looking forward to chatting with you about it for certain.
Sure.
Well, I think this has been a great discussion. And I really thank you, Monte, for your time. It's been, I think there's really highly valuable, and I'm excited for hearing the feedback when we get this posted online and distributed. So it'd be great.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Sam.
Sure.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you back again. So we are just going to start wrapping up here. So anybody that joined us today, I think we have a following that has been following us all along. I know it's been the holiday season, so love to see our numbers for our future events continue to increase. So thank you everyone for joining us. We will highly encourage you to go back and listen to the prior recordings. I would say not only if you're a company owner or an HR person, I would say if you're a candidate, if you're an employee that's looking to change your career, and I have some friends that may be looking at changing careers and some individuals, this information is valuable insight. You may want to look at the company that it has the values and offers you the value proposition as a new employer with what you may have learned today. Because that employer that really cares and loves you and cares about you as a candidate would probably follow these principles. So, so share if you think that a company owner, HR leader, or a candidate out there would really like to learn, share these videos. It's at compteam.net, it's COMPTEAM.net, and we'd love to have you. So we'll be meeting again next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We'd love to see you all join us again. And so thank you, everyone. We appreciate everyone's time. And I guess enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks,
And
Shar.
be safe. Thanks, Monty.
Take care. Nice talking to you all. Bye now.
All right.
Bye,
Thank you
Marty.
all.
Bye, everyone.
All right, see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.